Welcome to Weld.com. I have Mr. John Thompson here with Pferd. We're welding guys. Pferd's been helping us out with the abrasive side of the industry here. Appreciate the education. Got a problem. Need some help.
Okay.
I'm pretty good on the outside of something. How do you go about blending, and what tools do you have for reshaping welds and stuff, and working with stuff on the insides of parts?
Well, you know, that's just it. A lot of people can handle outside corners. They can handle a lot of being able to get into like railing work and things like that because it's accessible. The challenge you run into in an inside blind corner is you've got to be able to control and be able to take the material and maneuver it. We had talked about variable speeds before and controlling speeds in a couple of the other videos when it was just knocking welds down. Mm-hmm. No different when you're in an inside corner, Bob. You still have to be able to control it.
But I'm thinking, what tools? What are we doing here? Well, what are we using to shape things with?
Well, we know we can't do it with a right angle grinder, right? Because the disc is way too big to do the job. You can't get in there, all right? And so there's other things that are available. Now, a lot of guys, and I'm sure you've used these in the past, can use a cartridge roll. They go pretty simply on a mandrel assembly, and they just slide into place. They don't last very long. You buy boxes of them, you go through them like crazy. In the end, they don't cost much per item, but you got to use a lot of them to get something done. Now, what we did was we took a look at it and said, what do I want to do inside this weld? And what I got to do is I've got to go from the x-axis, y-axis, and z-axis from the center. So I need to have a little excess material there. You did that for me. That was great.
Okay, so we're blending this. We're kind of making this weld radius, blending everything back in.
Absolutely. What we're going to do is take where you've put the weld in that corner and made it convex. We actually have to make it concave so that water or anything else would flow against that corner.
Okay.
Okay, you're going to see this a lot in sanitary work. You're going to see it a lot where people have to want to blend things. Even in railings, you've got railings with the rails that come down, and you can blend in those areas so that they don't rust as quickly instead of trying to put on extra paint.
Railings where you run
Absolutely.
your fingers along there, you don't want any sharp edges or anything else.
Exactly, and all those are tight little corners, and it's where all the clock keeps running. You spend a lot of extra time. You got all the rest of it finished, and you're forever sitting in all the little tight corners, right?
Okay.
So, what are we going to do? We can use cartridge rolls. That's not an issue. But actually what we've done is, in this case, we've designed a specific family of carbide burrs, tungsten carbide burrs, that are actually made for different materials. We make one primarily for carbon steel. We make another family primarily for stainless steel. We make another family for aluminum. We make one for cast iron and working in foundries, being able to take all the parting lines and get around into cast irons. We even make a version for titanium and being able to go in on stuff on parts and be able to grind out excess weld. Tool and die stamp is other things that are available. So in this case, what we have is a really good weld that you had given us on all three corners and tight corners. And we're going to now show initially how to concave and shape that weld. And then we're going to come in with another step, and we're going to blend it all the way the rest of the way too.
I'm going to get a face shield on for this.
You can put one on. I think it's a good idea. The technique is to pull. You never push a burr. When you push a burr, that's when they bounce. You just lightly keep stroking it and pulling, and what's going to happen is it's going to take the material and shape it. So for instance, I come in this corner, and then I start heading this way. The first thing you have to understand is we've got to control speed, and we're back to our old friends of variable speed tools. And the reason we are is because what we're trying to do is I may have different diameters here. This particular one happens to be a 3/8 diameter that goes down to a 1/4 inch. I'm going to run this actually right around 19,000 RPM. But for instance, I may have a 1/2 inch one the next time I want to use a burr. I'm actually going to take that down a little lower. Because what I have to do is I have to maintain the same surface feet per minute speed, and as I pick up the diameter, I have to slow the RPM. Okay? Once again, a lot of people went out and bought really great straight shaft grinders and stuff that are single speed. They thought, this is great, this is all I ever need. Problem is, it may work as grinders for cutoff wheels with 3-inch cutoff wheels, or it may work with a couple of things. Then all of a sudden you get a material, you're running too fast. Chatter, bounce all over.
Lose control of your cut.
And a lot of heat. You're either burning up the burrs or burning up the cartridge rolls like crazy, or you're taking the material and making it all kinds of colors as you're trying to work through it.
Let's don't do that.
This is why you're really, in the long run, unless you're going to have a dedicated tool, only one size in a dedicated tool, and that gets pretty pricey to have a bunch of them sitting around with different flap wheels and everything. You get a variable speed tool. At this point, the biggest thing I want you to see, and this is why a lot of people don't like to use carbide burrs, is when it jumps away from them, it marks up all around the surrounding surface. But by pulling it, even coming to that corner and digging in slightly in that corner and pulling back, I'm even leaving the color. You can even see that the color on the material from your heat affected zone, I'm not even jumping against that.
I could hear it. You kind of bounced around a little bit until you got that bet to settle down and cut, and then you started pulling. I'm
lightly stroking it. Remember, I'm going from a convex surface. I'm going from the bulk of a weld, and I'm trying to turn it and dig it out the other way. So in the beginning, what I'm doing is just getting a little pocket built up.
Right.
And work in that pocket. And then when I'm coming down here and out toward the legs, I'm actually lowering it down so that I'm coming from the middle of the burr to the tip of the burr. Where people get in trouble is they're coming back and they go, oh, I just got it, and they jump forward. One of the flutes of the burr catches that little high spot they've got, and it skips up on the surface and puts a bunch of hits. And they go, that's why I don't like burrs, because, hey, the burr was only doing what it was controlled to do. If you lose control, it's going to go any place it wants to go. So that's really where we're at. So I just wanted to have you see here that we're taking out and concaving the area, but we're literally, we have no skipping because I'm pulling the burr, and we're not even getting to the point where we're starting to take out color. And that's actually a big indicator, because I'm going to take the excess weld off, but by leaving the color line, I don't undercut to the parent material. When I start taking that color line out, now I'm going to wind up with actually a dip in the parent material.
So we don't have much material to begin with. We're sheet metal.
Exactly. This is 18 gauge material. We don't have a lot to play with, so you sure can't put a line right next to it where you undercut it, because it's going to crack.
Right.
You can't do it. So all of this is control. You'll see I'm not sitting there just buzzing back and forth and ripping it off. This is not a scenario where you're going to be able to do this in a minute or two. This is a scenario, this is control. The same as when you were welding. You're coming in there and you're working that bead and you're controlling it. Now you're coming in and you're scooping out the excess material and you're controlling that bead. So we have one third one to do here and stuff. You can see the pocket starting to get shaped. We're going to clean up this a little bit more, and we're going to take that third one away, okay? What you're also going to see is, you'll notice I'm not going real fast. I'm kind of actually letting the burr do the job. A lot of times with abrasives, people get excited and they start going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And they spend so much time floating around that they really never get the material removed.
I want that job done quick.
Well, quick then I guess would be a good idea of letting the burr cut. And if I'm moving back and forth like this, it's never in any spot to do any good. So my rate of travel is slower. You see that a lot in welding, right? When you really want to control it and you've got the right wire feed and the right amperage, you're at a steady pace. And then you see somebody else come by and they're a little nervous. What do?
Crank things up, break away.
And start going, and it's just, they've got lumps and everything else. It's the same thing. It's building the muscle memory and the control, saying, look, I'm not bouncing around. I'm not chewing up the sidewalls in any one of the directions. And what I'm doing is letting the burr do it. I'm literally like coming in there and wiping it like a rag. Now I've made my pocket, and I've gone in all three directions, and I've started to concave that area. You can see the color, and I'm watching that, because if I get to the point where I start to take color out, what happens is now I'm starting to touch the parent material. And then I got to be really careful, because all I want to do with my next step is blend in that last little transition from where the weld itself came to the parent material itself.
Now, what is required to do that? Do you need to change to another shape of burr, or do we need to change to another finish?
Well, once again, just like we changed grit size when in one of the other episodes when we were talking about variable speed, and we went from an 80 grit scratch, which was the way you used to do things, that now I found out you're doing a whole lot of 150 grit scratches, because it's actually 2 steps, but you're winding up with a much better control.
All right.
It's the same thing we have to do here. This is the heavy lifter. This is the one that's going to scoop out the majority of the material.
Okay.
And then we're going to go with a finer grain and in a little bit different type of a setup, okay, as far as how it's made. And we'll show you that in a couple minutes.
All right.
So we did step number 1, and we've actually shaped the welds and stuff without undercutting them. You can see that the tungsten carbide burr really doesn't care, because it was running at the right speed, didn't build up any real heat. The shank itself is still silver colored, because we didn't stress the stone, we just, or stress the burr.
The point on this thing is still like razor sharp.
Right.
So what's the next step? How are we going to blend the rest of this in here?
Well, now what I want to do is I want to take the last that was here. This is mainly the areas that are right next to the parent material. Okay, I've made my concave groove, and now I've got to make that transition to put it into here. You can use a 120 grit cartridge roll. You can use a number of different things, and some people will pick finer grooves than that. One of the things that we make and we show is this is made out of leather.
Stop it.
Leather. We've taken leather, regular animal hide leather, and we have ground it to about the consistency of a real fine talcum powder. It's real fine. And then we take that and we mix it with abrasive grain. So we embed the grain into the powder, and then we mix in a little bit of the same resin, and basically the same resin as what we used in grinding wheels. And then we take that and we put this into a hydroform. This is actually a form, it's a collapsible form that uses water around the jacket that just really mash this into the form that we want. And it also puts in the back hole. After we do that, we take the shank itself and we glue the shank into the existing hole that we've made with a hydraulic adhesive. An adhesive that actually expands to lock that shank into place.
Okay. So you're using a medium and suspending an abrasive inside that.
Absolutely.
Okay. So right now I'm guessing this got to be low speed.
Excellent guess.
I mean, am I right? Or I don't know. Common sense it's going to tell me, you spin this thing, this is capable of 25,000 RPM.
Yes.
You spin the leather, and it's just going to melt it. It's too much for it.
Well, I'll tell you what. This ought to be fun. Let's take this the same speed as that. So let's take this particular machine all the way up to about 19 to 20,000 RPM, which is what we ran that stone at. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to shape it a little bit.
Okay.
And what we use to shape it is a shaping stone. And this is the same kind of shaping stone that is actually used to shape vitrified mounted points and to shape some of the bonded points that we may use and stuff that are actually abrasive grain that are mixed. In the case of vitrified, they're actually mixed with glass. Okay.
This is aggressive. What is this?
That's actually made out of volcanic rock. It's actually formed and stuff and cut directly from volcanic rock. And it's very open porous, all right?
I see that.
So what it's going to do is, you see it with the point, is it's like sharpening a pencil. What you literally are going to do is build what you want right on the edge of that point.
Interesting. So that finish or that point is kind of what you want that shape to be down there.
Absolutely. See, and you can buy pre-made points that are pre-manufactured to size. These are called W shapes, these non-pre-made points. And the reason they're there is because you don't know exactly what you're going to be working on. Yeah. You don't know if it's going to be a 3/8 radius, if it's going to be something that's a little tighter. In this case, we're a little bit tighter. by buying a W shape, and literally like you'd sharpen a pencil. You're just going to turn around and get this into the shape that you want, and then when you use it, it'll maintain that shape as it continues to keep coming in here.
Okay, so we pretty much chewed that off pretty quick. I understand that that's aggressive and open porous, but what's the weld metal going to do to the...
Let's find out.
Okay. Do I need a face shield or anything?
What you're going to get is you're going to get a little dust.
Sounds like I'm at the dentist.
Well,
almost smells like it with
maybe if
burnt
he's
leather.
a horse doctor, you might be okay, but you never know, you know. Okay, we're going to take this, we're going to tap this off, and you're going to see what that leather did. That leather took the scratch from the mounted point, and now we took the color out, and we actually transitioned it into the parent material without overgrinding it.
Interesting.
Now we got a little weld spatter in there and stuff like that, and we chase that a little bit different way. We probably chisel it off, or we would use maybe a little more adjustment on the machine to cut down on the spatter.
Right.
But the whole idea behind using this is that what you've done now is you've gone from the last little bit of the weld parent, you've gone into the actual parent material and blended it through.
And that's where we get into food grade codes and finish codes. And
Absolutely. Here's your leather. You can take that home with you. There's a little bit of horse, a little bit more for you there. That's about the consistency we start out with.
Was that the right RPM, or was that too much?
Actually, I was running a little fast, but what I wanted to show you is even in reality, remember, given the diameter here, this is a 3/8 diameter, this is a 3/8 diameter, okay? I would have run it, to have it last a little longer, I'd have it running probably around 3,000 or 4,000 lower. But if people didn't, you notice it didn't hop all over the place. It gave me a real high-end finish right away.
Yeah, it was smooth.
So it tends to be a little bit less speed sensitive. The only thing you're going to consume is you may wind up consuming more of them if you don't run at the proper speed. Okay.
But these things are like, they're going to last way longer than these.
Not only that, but more importantly, my next finish that I could do on here is to go to that 1,500 grit compound on a felt bob, and I can put a mirror finish in this from your raw weld using the carbide burr, going with the leather, and then going into 1,500 grit compound.
Wow.
And I can't
weld too.
But I can't control that just at 120 grit from a cartridge roll.
I know, and this is only one shape.
Yeah, that's it. It's a tapered
I've got
shape.
Nothing. And by the way, once you wear this out, you're into your steel pen. Now you're putting your steel pen into your stainless. That's cool.
Real bad news when you're going along and you got it all just about finished and you hear that ding, 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 ding. And good. Pretty soon you're going, okay, this is not good. And yet you can't cut that short. If you cut it short, you have no strength. A lot of guys will take these longer shanks like this and they'll say, well, the heck with that. I'm going to cut it all the way back here. The problem is that there's no strength here and you'll just blow the mounted point or the cartridge roll away. So you have to use the shank that's intended for cartridge rolls.
So does this get a rinse? We can go in and give this a rinse.
That's the other aspect about it. You know, the neat thing about the leather is you're not dealing with anything that's going to pick up any moisture or do anything else. And so you can actually, when you come down and of course you've gotten rid of the spatter and some of the other things, made sure everything was nice and even. You flush it out with a little bit of a sanitizer cleaner, send it back into plant.
Wow. I'm learning a lot here. This Pferd training is very beneficial and we really appreciate your time. Really appreciate your time. We've got some other products and some other solutions that we're going to shoot, so make sure you stay with us. Thanks for watching Weld.com. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram as well. This is this is
yeah, you know what this is really made out of? Slow running reindeer, man. I'm telling you right now. Yeah, Santa ain't got nothing on us, boy.